Okay, hi, and welcome to another episode of A Reality Podcast. This week we are chatting to the lovely ladies from
Sunny Street.
All right, as usual, we're talking about reality. It's not a virtual reality. This is real people in real situations doing real things, and I think that has value. So let's get on and do that. So, morning ladies, let's maybe introduce ourselves to start.
Yeah, so my name is Sonia Goodwin. I am the co-founder and nursing director of Sunny Street.
And hi everyone, I'm Dr. Nova Evans, and I am also the co-founder of Sunny Street and play a little bit in medical director land.
So a nurse and a doctor who had a good idea and wanted to do something and make a bit of a difference.
Just a little bit.
So let's just nut all of this out, right? So how's it going?
Well, we're about 21 months into Sunny Street at the moment. So just for a bit of reference, Sunny Street is a mobile doctor and nurse-led outreach service, and we provide incredible healthcare conversations and connections to people experiencing homelessness and really complex vulnerabilities, on the street in Australia.
Just pause you there. Did you get that, everyone? so they're going to homeless people on the street where they are and providing them medical cover.
Yeah.
This isn't providing housing. It's not providing social work. It's providing a full multidisciplinary approach to seeing people on the street, having a conversation and giving them medical care where they need it.
Yeah, and the super exciting thing about that is it's the first of its kind across southeast Queensland, but we have volunteer doctors, volunteer nurse practitioners, volunteer nurses registered and enrolled, volunteer paramedics.
We do.
And community people, and looking at allied health now as well. So we're about 21 months into that incredible journey.
So we have over 250 volunteers on our books now. So 250 beautiful hearts who are coming on this crazy journey with us to actually go out to the streets, to community centres, to caravan parks, and have really authentic, heartfelt conversations. And what we do in Sunny Street with our conversational-based model of care is we actually encourage our volleys to lean in, to listen to some really hard stuff, and also give of themselves. But the whole purpose of Sunny Street is to start to rebuild the trust that our most disenfranchised and disadvantaged people in our community feel towards the healthcare system. So we build trust through conversation, and the goal is to empower them to then feel comfortable enough to re-enter traditional mainstream healthcare as we all know it.
Now, everybody has had an experience of being around or seeing homeless people, right? You've been to big cities, people have travelled around, they're very aware of the problem. So I worked in the UK for a while in London, and I used to have a nurse who lived in a place in the Czech Republic, I don't know how you pronounce it, Brno, B-R-N-O, and she would fly 10 days in and 10 days out because her kids were local at school. And she would tell me stories during the winter, because it would get to minus 15, minus 20, of homeless people being stuck out on the streets, passing away and not being found for a week or two, simply because of exposed to the weather and living, you guys say living it tough, living rough.
Sleeping rough and living doing it tough.
But that word tough, like my grandmother post-war, there was a bit of a depression in Australia. They lived hard, but this concept of living on the street in the weather, I can have empathy, but I can never really know. No. Because I've so lucky, with the postcode that you grow up in and sort of life circumstances when you roll the dice and see what happens. Some people's dice just roll a different way.
They do.
Yeah,
they really do.
And they don't quite start out, quite often we see people experiencing homelessness and, there's a lot of stigma. And to be honest, when I first, Nova and I first began this service, we didn't realise we had our own judgments. And that was quite confronting for us.
And stereotypes.
Yeah,
we thought we knew who we were going to be looking after, but we didn't really.
But we didn't. And the thing is, typically when we speak to people about, their idea of people who are experiencing homelessness, it's around drug use and alcohol abuse and things like that. But actually, the surprising thing for us, we found heading out in the streets, is that you're talking about life and rolling the dice, and even if you think you've got it sorted, even if you're a CEO or a COO of a company, you will, we see these people come to our clinic. So they were a CEO, they were a COO, took a little bit too much risk in the company or rolled the dice and made some different decisions. And
come on, the bundle of razors going okay. I'm trying my best.
Good. Keep going. Keep going.
That's right.
But however, should you need us, we'll be there for you.
You know where we are. But this is the thing, and it was frightening to hear these conversations around high profile business people who have made some risky decisions, lost their business, lost money, lost family.
That one patient comes to mind that we saw at Maroochydore Neighbourhood Centre. So he was an ex-CEO in Sydney, and he just a really, really nice guy, but holy smackers, 9 months. It took him 9 months to go from CEO of a multi-million-dollar company in Sydney. He showed me photos of his house and of his beautiful car. It was so fancy I didn't even recognise what brand it was. And so at work he took too many risks, lost his job within weeks, months of that, lost his wife. Within weeks, months of that, punched up the new partner of his estranged wife, then had an assault charge going for him, then moved to Queensland, lost everything on the streets of Maroochydore, and that's where we met him, and we believe he's probably now in jail because it just went from one thing to another. Wow. And that was 9 months. So stories like that are real stories, and they stick in. You can't unhear and you can't unmeet people, and his story is certainly tattooed on me.
That's the really tangible thing, the sticky part of our business, isn't it? People come in our door, they're in front of us in a closed bed space.
Yes.
And they take off their dressings and they're raw underneath.
They are raw.
Whether that's a pressure sore or whether that's a mental trauma of what's going on, is that being a healthcare professional, we're tending to that rawness.
Absolutely.
And what you guys are doing in the world of homelessness, you're going to that dark place.
And I feel, even as a nurse myself, I've been a nurse registered nurse for 25 years now, and I guess my family and friends always said, if you're a nurse, you'll have a job for life. You can find a job anywhere. You've got the skills, easily transferable, you'll be fine. The surprising thing for me was to find, quite a few registered nurses on the streets. I remember seeing this beautiful, beautiful nurse, and she, I knew she was a nurse when she came to see us. And because
what gave it away, son?
She was still not. No, she was not wearing a white dress, but she turned up and she actually had a fob watch on.
Stop it.
Yeah, she did.
And so
purple, of course, that's her favourite colour. So she basically dresses in all purple with her purple fob watch on, and Sonia fell in love immediately.
I instantly do. But
I could see you skip over with your stethoscope and your sphygmo and a high five.
I just said, "Excuse me, are you a nurse?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "When was the last time you practiced?" And she said, 12 years ago. And I just hugged her. And then heard her story. One of us. Yeah. And another registered nurse who ended up out of work. She hadn't worked for 5 years, and I remember one night, it was she had nowhere to live, and she was on the brink of getting a home. We were so excited for her.
We were.
And it was rainy one night, and we were at a clinic, and we managed to get an inflatable bed for her that she could, like one of those air beds you just kind of sweep through.
Chuck it in,
and it was raining, and she was keeping up her spirits. And then she just said to one of our team, "Can you just get a number for me for tomorrow? I've got to go to this place, this housing place." And so I saw her get the number, and then she looked outside and it was pouring rain, and she had everything she needed for one last night on the street. And then she looked back to the nurse, to Sunny Street nurse, and the Sunny Street nurse said, "It's okay." And then her whole face broke. She put her head down. Everything about her broke. And for a minute I saw that. And then she put her head back up, and she had so much resilience and strength. And then she nodded and said, "Okay." And she walked out into the rain. And I just thought, oh my gosh, that's an RN. And that, so it happens to anyone.
It's heavy. So you're looking after these people.
Yeah.
Who looks after you?
We do look after each other a lot, but we check in with a lot, and with Sunny Street we have a debrief after every single clinic. So, but sometimes things hit you a little bit after. So even with that situation, at the time I noticed it, and it wasn't until I was driving home in the car and I saw her face drop again and everything crumble. And I thought, oh my gosh. So
that's just such a reproducible thing,
so
in your life generally, you just that moment, or these people, these tender.
They're health professionals.
They're our colleagues.
We've had doctors who have also,
Dr. Burnout, even from consultant surgeons, the mental health rates of that type of thing. We all know it's high, but still clinically, when you go to work, you just look at some relationships between colleagues and think, that's not. We need to be more. And
that's why I think with our culture with Sunny Street, we're very much we have a lot of communication avenues with our teams. We have debrief at the end. We check in with everyone. We have a follow up with a medical nursing director afterwards if anyone's concerned, and we have a fantastic culture of the Sunny Street volunteers, nurses and doctors contacting us and saying, we need to check in on this person, but that also happens with our patients. So they're also, if they're a little bit concerned, we follow up too. But taking care of each other, we won't get through it if we don't. We're not, we have to take care of each other.
So just remind me after the podcast today. So there's a guy who does critical incident stress management. And I'll contact him just for your volleys. He might be able to help out. And he can do face-to-face debriefing. Because I worked in Iraq in Mosul. And when I got home, that first 2 weeks, intermittent tears, off my food, went to the GP, 200 on 100 blood pressure. It's the same as when my mum passed away. So these are massive moments in your life. When you're in them, you think you're okay. Or stress,
that's right.
I'd score my stress a 7 out of 10. But when you look back a year later, you realise that was probably a 13 out of 10. And you look at your past to this point here, and you never really know when you're in it, that type of thing. But looking out for each other, especially volunteers who are taking their time, that's such an honourable thing.
But we say that we look out for each other and things like that, and we do. But then you need some professional help. Then bloody get it. There's no stuffing around with that at all. So. We're very real about that stuff, and we've all experienced that in Sunny Street. As directors, we have too. Where we have to just check out or get professional help, see a psychologist, those kinds of things. We deliberately made the clinics 2-hour clinics to help try and make them short and sharp, and not 8-hour clinics where you're dealing with that's a lot. So, but even still, we ask people to lean in to some tough stuff.
And you guys do something pretty unique as well, don't you? Now, this is...
Are you talking about the hugging? No.
I hope hugging isn't unique. I hope hugging is universal.
We do hug everyone.
I want to talk about the monk.
Oh my gosh,
The monk?
The monk.
No, Buddhist nun.
Oh, we're so grateful.
Oh my gosh.
So you guys just unravel that story a little about wellness and,
we're really, really grateful at this point. At Sunny Street, we have people who ring us with some really fantastic odd things. And we have been offered chocolates. And we'd like to thank you for,
thank you to Little Monster Chocolate.
For our volunteers and our events, and grills, for burgers, and thank goodness for feeding us at our events and things. But we had a wonderful individual, Julie Coulthard, and she contacted us around Chen Rezig, the Buddhist group up in the hills in Udalo here on the sunny coast, and said, would you be interested in any way in a Buddhist nun in maroon robes? And we thought, we're interested already. That's a really odd situation.
You have to say yes when things like that come up.
We would like one of those.
And so began this beautiful relationship where she comes once a month and basically leads our leadership team through, an hour and a half of guided meditation and mindfulness exercises. And she's just a hands down beautiful person, but she's really real, and she knows exactly what we're doing, and she gifts us with her presence and her and her spiritual guidance and just her kindness, I suppose. She just helps us fill our tanks so that we can empty them out on the streets as we do.
But, you guys, you're going out into the world, and this is the world coming back to you.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I think
it's quite beautiful. We're very grateful.
Yeah, they're all the things that have kept us going through the hard startup life, and for sure, you just take those little wins when you can.
So is startup life hard?
Is it hard?
I thought this shit was easy.
No, I'm pretty sure it's just Sonia and I that experience it.
Well, you should speak to my wife. Oh yeah, Hayley, if you're listening, I love you.
Is startup life hard? Well, I don't know. I suppose you could just look at it like, what is it? Yeah.
A washing machine.
2 years ago, we had permanent full-time jobs within Queensland Health. We were both earning really good money. We had this thing called paid annual leave, and also a thing called sick leave.
And I think also
quite
you
amazing.
Call that security.
Yeah, I think there was a thing called financial security that was going on.
Loved that for
there.
us.
Yeah, I know. And the story that led us to resigning on the same day without telling our husbands, that's a whole nother story. But to then go from that to the world of startup land, not knowing where you're at, having to sell your home, having to rent different places to keep the wolves from the door. Those parts of startup life are really, really real. And
I think if you want to, we talk about, and I love Brene Brown, but she talks about vulnerability. If you want to jumpstart your own vulnerability,
oh my gosh,
quit your secure job and become an entrepreneurial nurse and doctor. That will jumpstart so many things, including all kinds of courage and vulnerability in your life.
Things you couldn't
the risk
imagine.
that you take.
Yep.
So this is the thing that I love.
Right.
You have a good idea.
Have a good idea.
You have a good idea.
Great idea.
And I will say, hands down, people who work in these hospitals, very intelligent people. Healthcare generally, university trained, compassionate people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once you get a good idea, you want to make a business. You think, you know what, I can make a difference to society, or I can improve nursing as an industry. So then you've got to make this good idea commercial business. That chasm, that drift between the two, is the, I don't even know how to explain. I do. In the UK, you see cheese wheel racing. Have you ever seen the video?
Yes.
So they get this massive wheel of cheese and push it down this really intense hill, and then they run down after it.
Well, it's cheese.
It's kind of like the Gameri pumpkin roll,
Yeah. And you see, the leader's out in front, and he's not running now. He's or she. They're just tipping one leg over the other. Any little deviation,
it's all
done.
Mm-hmm.
That's the visual sort of representation of me at the moment.
Well, that's us in the last 21 months. And we are chasing the cheese, man. We are chasing the cheese. We are running. But it is really hard you talk about this chasm, this difference between, for us, it's a huge chasm. So I think, typically, so when I was a nurse growing up for the last 25 years, my history is in aged care. Love it. Love big aged care supporter. Love that work.
She just loves old people.
I love relationships. And then community nursing. Love that too. Worked in the hospital system, and then leadership and management roles, did tutoring at university, things like that. Love it. But when I came out of university and all through my career, even in different performance reviews I've had, I remember in my performance development plans writing down, I want to start my own business. I did that for 3 years. And it didn't suit the environment, so I had to choose different goals. So I got rid of the goal and chose I want to be a nurse unit manager or a direct, those kinds of things, because they are pathways. The pathways are laid out. Mm-hmm. I still kept writing I wanted my own healthcare business, and it never got any attention. So
you just stopped talking to your managers about it.
Yeah, so in the end, I, as Nova said, we made the decision to look at not our security, but we did a lot of fear setting before we left our roles, and we thought, what happens if we stay? So what happens? So goal setting, yes, and if we did this would be amazing. But what happens to us if we stay? We would continue. We know our pathways; they're laid out, and the money. It's all nicely packaged, and it's a lovely story. Very successful to anybody
it's very
who's listening.
normal.
Yeah,
very normal and very familiar to most people.
But as a nurse, I felt that. I remember saying to Nova, "I've got to go," and we jumped because we wanted to continue our innovation. And see what was out there in the world. So that encouragement to be an entrepreneurial nurse, the fact that we were given the education, the skills, the talent and the innovation from nurses is absolutely insane. But to be able to step outside of the traditional pathways that we're handed as nurses and doctors and create for Australia or internationally is some serious bravery and some serious courage required. But I think more of us need to step out of that space. And for Nova and I, it was about us stop. We didn't want to ask permission anymore to see if our ideas were good ones. We wanted to step out, we wanted to test them, we wanted to jump, we wanted to review them, we wanted to take risks, we wanted to see what people on the streets need. We want to also encourage other health professionals to come and join us and
to think differently,
to think differently and to nurse and doctor differently. To reach in, to lean in, to hug, to really be present with someone, to strip away the funding and time constraints and be that nurse you want to be.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
It was about impact. It was about thinking about the rest of our careers, 20, 25 years left before we retire, and thinking about, the last day we hang up, the stethoscope, or the fob watch.
The fob watch.
Mind you, I can see you wearing that. Anyway.
Do you want to sit on the patio today, Sonia?
Give me a wheelie walkabout.
What time is it, darling?
I've got about 3 fob watches in my jewellery cabinet.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, she does. But I think it was about impact, and it was about thinking about what is our impact. And I, from my background, I remember early in my career, when I was very, very clinical, and I loved that frontline clinical work. I had a mentor at the time who I was talking about, what I wanted to be when I grew up. P.S. I still don't know. But he said, if you want to help more and create a greater impact, then you go into medical administration or medical education. And I was like, righto, that makes sense, because then, okay, I can mess with the minds of the young doctors and, make them think differently and help them think outside the box and show them that you can practice medicine with kindness and compassion, which is a part of the curriculum that doesn't seem to exist. And then administration. So then I can lead big teams of doctors, and I, ended up getting all the way up to executive director of medical services. So, went down both these pathways, not realizing that actually there's an even bigger impact to be made by stepping outside the system. So when you look at it like that, and you look at what Sonia and I are now creating, we're actually creating a healthcare system for people experiencing homelessness and complex vulnerability. So when I do hang up my stethoscope, I'll not only know that, yes, I've impacted patients at the frontline level, I've gone down medical admin and medical education pathways, and I love both of those and will continue to do those. But actually, look at Sunny Street. Look at what we've created in a whole new system outside of the system. And I think that's the impact that we're going for.
And I think also the important thing about, having that creative entrepreneurial spirit in yourself as a health professional is to try and find a tribe that supports you. Because without it, Nova and I would have fallen over.
2 seconds flat.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so we went out, and fortunate to meet you, Brad, part of our tribe.
Yeah.
But without that support, that's we couldn't survive it.
Yeah. No, and I think it's always thinking outside the box. And in healthcare, both nursing and medical, they're so hierarchical. They are very siloed. We all know the worlds that we live in. And there's a lot of, banting around of, multi-disc this and, vertical integration and all this stuff. But when the rubber hits the road within systems that have been just been around for so long.
Traditional.
Yeah, exactly. It's just really, really hard to do that.
The perceived discussion is that their ability to be agile and innovation will be in their mission statement, but the reality is there's this darkness when it comes to that in a big organisation, because if you have a nurse who has a good idea on the floor, the likelihood that idea will come into practice in a reasonable 3 to 6 month period is nearly unlikely. The bureaucracy would be that nurse's idea would probably go to a manager, it would sit with them. If they didn't have buy-in, it'd be dead. If it got floated, it would then take
months and months and months of business cases, of negotiation, of it just dies. And the changes that are made within the system, and certainly Sonia and I have proudly been responsible for for some really cool stuff within the system. That far out, it's just painful. It is just painful watching and sticking with those ideas.
But I think when you step outside and you start to creatively think and provide solutions, you can still do all that reviewing and you have an idea and you ask people, how's this going to fail? Tell me now, how is this going to fail? It's one of my favourite questions.
I don't particularly like it.
No, doesn't particularly like it, but I actually love asking. I've got an idea.
Stop fighting you. It's not what we're here for.
She's like, show me all the problems. I'm like, no, I don't want to see the
problem.
So
Nova hides under the table.
Sure.
My favourite question is, well, how is it going to break? So I love to, because if we can figure out how it's going to break, then we can help solve it. But with Sunny Street, what we do, we just finished our surveys for the year, but we ask our stakeholders, our patients and our volunteers, how the heck is this going? Is it going well? How do we improve it? Because without them and their input, if the community don't lead this idea, and because it's for the community,
it's a community problem.
And so then we become the system. So so for us, we take our feedback extremely seriously and workshop it and try to build what's required for the people, and otherwise we become that system.
That's right.
And the thing I find super interesting about this innovative culture, the tribes that are happening around the place, is the transparency then of you have a new service, right? But then the big system, government systems, even big private hospitals, how do they find out about these services? Effectively there's all this stuff happening in the wash out in the peripheries, which is good value, needs to be linked in order to then provide a forceful community approach. So some of these innovation communities need that sort of powerful policy and champions, essentially, the visibility to then integrate into the wider system, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's one thing that in Bundle of Rays, our platform when we launch in May, is that the tribe, so we'll have this voice. So we want to promote nursing innovation. So we're going to be doing some clinical education, but we're going to be putting it out there to nurses to say, all right, well, what do you want to do? How else can we innovate?
So what's your idea?
So effectively that's what you're saying with your surveys, is that feedback loop to say, this is our model, here we are, we're in our our little bus.
Where are we going?
What's happening? Is this good for you? Which that bottom up approach.
Well, it has to be that way.
And that's our org structure. The patients are at the top, and the patients and the volleys are at the top. They're the ones building this service.
So it's not a flow-based system.
Well, do you know what? Nova and I think we have some good ideas sometimes, but basically it's everybody else really that's leading the system.
That's right. We're just doing as we're told.
We're just on the steering wheel.
So what's the vision? Where are you going?
Well, we're going to a few places in what we call our Sunny Street spaceship, but
we're building a spaceship.
That beep beep.
It's no longer.
It's a spaceship.
Now.
Want to come?
So we're yes, we need ET as our mascot.
Yeah, that's right.
But no, we're actually this year we're scoping out different regions, Melbourne, Sydney, Townsville, Adelaide, places like that, to go national with the concept of street medicine in a coordinated fashion, which we believe will be the Australia's first coordinated healthcare service or system for vulnerable people. So we're very excited about that because there's lots of stats. You know, we know there's 116,000 people that are homeless. At least that does not really cover what's happening, but and stats around poverty for Australia is something like 3.7 or 3.9 million, but 700,000 of those people are kids living under the poverty line in Australia. So we think the Sunny Street is essential. It needs to get out there. It needs to hit the streets. It needs to start acting like a soft entry point for people who are disengaged from mainstream health. So that's one of the places that we're heading, which we're really excited about.
Yep, that's the vision.
So a national approach.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we started Sunny Street with that in mind. You know, so I think if you're going to have an idea, we just before this podcast, we got off the phone from our mentor who said, you need to look up and look even further out. He goes, you need to stop underestimating what actually has to happen here. And so, you know, that's just happened half an hour ago. So it's a constant thing for us to keep thinking big. You know, fortunately, we did start it thinking this is going to be, you know, Australia's first nationally coordinated healthcare system for people sleeping rough or doing it tough. That's the goal. That's where we're at. But in order to make that happen, it is a daily, sometimes hourly challenge to go, nope, think bigger. Nope, think bigger. Because that's certainly not how we're trained. And, you know, and I think it's an Australian thing, isn't it? You know, a bit of tall poppy, you know, don't think too big, you know, don't pretend too far up.
It's just the market as well, you know, like having lived and worked in the UK for nearly 10 years, I worked at UCLH, which is in Euston, and you just, having lived and worked in the UK for 10 years, you know, you walk out the front of the hospital, relatively central London, there's usually people sleeping in there. You know, it's there, you know, and 26 million people in Australia, they're good folk, don't get me wrong. Some might be a bit annoying. But listen, you know, there's 8 cities in China that have a population greater than our whole country. When you look at Europe, you know, what you're doing here relatively could propose as a proof of concept. You could show the world how this could be done. You know, you're doing something that isn't being done. And, you know, you apply what you do here to the UK, English speaking, pretty easy. Their healthcare model's not too dissimilar. And then all of a sudden you've got this pivotal moment where you can provide something to the world.
Bigger.
You know, like...
I know.
There's
more
logistics.
Geronimo points.
There's logistics. We do. We constantly work either in the weeds, as we call it, in or on the business, so in the weeds or on the business. And we wear multiple hats. We're big hat wearers now. Lots of roles. So
I just recently finished a book called Tribe by an author called Sebastian Junger. And it's about, what is your tribe? You know, who are you? What is the value that you do in life? Is it your family, your wife, your kids, or your husband? Is it nurses? Is it the people at the supermarket that you're getting the food with? Are they your tribe? They're your people. They live in your hood. Or is it Australia? Or, you know, finding how you have a place in your community and how that you then apply yourself to community is a really interesting thing. Because you get on social media and everybody, it's an easy chat, you know. Oh, the world's anti-social these days. People have got their heads in their screens, you know, but how are you applying yourself? Do you go to the supermarket and ask the young teller how she is, how she's doing at school? You know, has she gone and seen her granddad lately? Or do you pop into the nursing home and play a game of Scrabble with Beverly and talk about how her leg's sore? You know, that concept of tribe and what you're doing is transferable. So that vision I find really interesting about your business is that A1, I don't know, and excuse the French, how the fuck you're doing what you're doing. You know, like, it's not easy.
No,
it's not easy. You know? And the application of what you're doing relies on so many moving parts. So first and foremost, kudos. I've got my hand on my heart, by the way. You can't hear that shit. Amazing job.
Thank you.
But then just that bubbling, like, wow.
Wow.
This might actually work. Right? You're 20 months in.
Yeah.
You're doing some stuff.
You're
here in
doing some
South
stuff.
Australia. You're having some conversations with the people.
With the people. We're talking to the people.
So, you know.
I sounded like Nanette then.
She sounds like a nice person. So, let's do the plug.
Yeah.
So if you're out there and you want to help homeless people, and I'm pretty sure if you're a healthcare person, that's the kind of business that you're in.
Yeah.
Get on Facebook, look up Sunny Street.
Absolutely. Visit our website.
Visit the website.
And also at the moment we've got a crowdfunding campaign that's going off. So we are trying to raise money because the community has called for us to expand. So our surveys, our patients, our stakeholders, nurses, doctors, just expand, just do this more in more places more often. So we've got a crowdfunding campaign. If you go to sunnystreet.org, you'll be able to click donate, and more. That will absolutely help us.
Yeah, it'll help us help more people because Sonia and I are only 2 people, and we have an amazing team of volunteers around us.
Yeah, and development team.
Oh my gosh, so many people. But at the end of the day, we've still got to pay to have the lights on and the computers running. So
and the clinic supplies and laptops at clinics, things like that. So that would be very helpful.
Yeah, so anything you can do to help would be great.
Put your hand in your pocket, people, and help these lovely ladies out. Usually the biggest piece of advice I say to people is that going on a journey like this, you walk down this path and you look around and see who's next to you. And essentially what you girls are doing is into the forest at night in the rain, right? It's foggy. You're out
We're
there.
often in the rain, actually.
When you punch through the other side, and then you go, oh, what are we doing? Why have we done this? Have we made an impact? When you turn around and have a look, that moment, that day, where you can say, we've helped some people.
Oh, we do that every clinic.
That's
every
the
clinic.
I think for us, we because we do a lot. Every single day is like a roller coaster for us, but in a wonderful, wonderful way. But the thing is, if ever we doubt or we think, oh, we're bloody tired and we're, and sometimes it's a hard gig, like as you know, but all you have to do is rock up to one clinic and sit there. And I tell you, when we turn around, the biggest thing we will see is that, lives have been saved through conversations from our volunteers. And so every single person, just one person, that impact. That's what we see at the moment.
Just keep our eyes on the patients, and the rest will happen.
Yeah.
Like I said, people, goddamn, put your hand in your pocket. Help these ladies out. Thanks for taking the time to come and talk to us today here at Bundle of Air.
Having us.
Absolute pleasure. And people, do the right thing. Support Sunny Street. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.